Well, good morning, and thank you all for joining us for our last Pigments 101 webinar for the year. We're very happy that you have joined us for today's webinar, and we're certainly looking forward to our next year of webinars as well. So today we're going to be talking about the design of mica effect pigments specifically for long-term weatherability purposes. And although the title of the webinar is in powder coatings, this does apply to all types of coatings and plastics as well, where long-term weatherability is needed. We just happen to do the testing in a powder coating formulation for this investigation. So we'll go ahead and get started. We will be recording the session so that you can have this for your records in the future. And if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat box and I will address them at the end. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera off so that you get the full picture, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So we wanted to be able to talk about effect pigments, especially for exterior applications. And effect pigments will let the manufacturers develop their own very distinctive color effects. A lot of times we are always looking for that little niche that we can call our own and be able to attract additional customers via that color development. The colors that they support both the balancing act between function and aesthetics in here, and that's very important for today's topic. But we also know that customers buy not only for rational reasons, but also with a heart. So what grabs their attention, what grabs their interest level. And studies have also shown us that we know that about 70% of buyers will opt for an effect color, regardless of the color space that they're in there. So it is especially important. But for this particular investigation, we are definitely focusing on the fact of these micas will need to support the balancing act between both the function and the aesthetics in here. So this is what we're trying to achieve, both giving you the opportunity to design in more color effects into your palette, as well as bringing you the function that you require for your application. So it's definitely more than just chemistry. So we build these micas very specifically for the color effect that we're trying to receive, as well as the chemistry that we're using for the surface treatment. That is very specific to the end application as well. So in terms of exterior area, this is one of the key areas where we wanted to focus on, because we do know that there are some limitations in the exterior applications, especially in architectural type applications, where there's a desire for some additional looks of color and design of color, but has been limitations in terms of the function or the physical properties of the finish in here. So the work that we've done is really directed towards being able to provide more color space, but also the required weatherability that's needed for that particular application. So building a mica effect, we've talked about this in previous webinars, where it's a multi-level process, starting with the centerpiece being the mica platelet, and that can be, of course, natural or synthetic, And we can vary the thickness, thickness and particle size, and the distribution of that particle size as well to get the physical look that we're looking for. Then the next couple of layers are where the color comes in. So we've talked about this in the mica webinars, where it's the thickness of these layers of metal oxides and other additives that gives the final color that you're trying to achieve with that one. And then the outermost layer, the fifth layer, if you will, is the weather treatment that we can use. And we have a selection of chemistries, um, certainly how much we put on there. And we also have the option of using multiple chemistries in multiple layers if we need to specifically design something specific for an application. So within each layer, there's some decisions that are made to ultimately achieve the color, the effect, and the properties that we are looking for in that end product. So with respect to the of manufacturing of effect pigments, as we've seen before, it's a fairly simple process where the color gets added on in the reactor, and it's really a time and temperature process to make sure that the right thickness of the metal oxide is achieved to give the actual color. Once the material is created in the kiln, where the metal salt is converted to the metal oxide, it's put back into the reactor to be able to add the appropriate surface treatment. And again, it's the same thing here. It's time, temperature, to be able to apply the appropriate amount of surface treatment that's required for that particular product. So before we go on, there's two types of surface treatments that tend to be lumped into the generalized surface treatment description. Encapsulation is where, of course, as the name implies, it completely covers the surface of whatever is being encapsulated. So there's no exposed surfaces of that particular particle. Whereas a surface treatment typically is only there to modify the surface. It's attached onto the surface that is being treated. There could be some areas that might still be exposed. But the key here is, when we're selecting the treatment to use, is to make sure that we match up the treatment and the mechanism of that treatment to the failure or the property that we're trying to correct. So why do we use surface treatments for micas? Two primary reasons is because the metal oxides are used to create the color of the mica. And typically it's either titanium dioxide or iron oxide as the main metal oxides that are used in today's micas. The difference between the two, we do know that iron oxide is stable when it's exposed to the UV radiation. And conversely, we do know that the titanium dioxide can undergo that photocatalytic degradation, which will change its properties and color if exposed heavily to that one. And this is where we're trying to make sure that we achieve that treatment so that we can minimize that amount of degradation. The other area is related to the physical particle itself. So mica particles have a very high aspect ratio, and they're typically hydrophilic in nature. And what that ends up doing is has the potential for a wicking action of moisture into the film, which can alter which can result in structural stresses that can impact that film. In terms of, you can see potentially some gloss weak differences in there. In severe cases, that might result in some delamination of multiple coats. So the surface treatment is also there to ward off that wicking action that might occur with respect to a mica particle. So the investigation that we did is we had three primary objectives for taking a look at this in here. So the first objective we wanted to use was take a look at the actual chemistry of the surface treatment that we're using and the amount of each of those chemistries in terms of how it responds to weathering of a mica powder, of the mica in this coating formulation. The second objective was to take a look at the particle size in there, because as you know, depending on what kind of aesthetics you're looking for, a finer mica particle size will give you more of a smooth luster versus the larger ones will give you the bigger sparkle or pop in your formulation. So we wanted to understand the impact of particle size. And lastly, we wanted to take a look at the metal oxide type, whether it's iron oxide or TiO2 or a combination of the two. And of course, the thickness. And I talked about the thickness being the color part of it and how those types of properties of the physical mica are impacted in the weatherability. So the formulation that we use, we worked with a fluoropolymer thermoset gray powder coating as a master batch. This particular formulation meets the AMA 2605-17 specification for weathering. And to that, we added a 2% mica loading to that master batch for all of our samples that we were evaluating. As far as the testing is concerned, we did it three ways. We took a look at the ultra accelerated Amaqua testing, and we ran that for 12 months. And in doing the research with that particular one, we see that it's typically equates to 1 month of the ultra accelerated Amaqua is about 1 year in Florida. Kind of a relationship is based on their data that they've done over the years. We also sent panels for Florida. We've set them out for 5 years. We've got 2 years of data complete, although I am expecting the third year data to be received before the end of the year, maybe early next year. And then, of course, we also did some in-house xenon testing out to 3,000 hours for a select number of panels. So diving into the data that we have, so the first objective, if you remember, was taking a look at the chemistry of that surface treatment and the amount that we did. So what we're looking at here is a series of the very fine micas. These are based off of our superfine 4101 mica, which is a 1 to 15 micron mica. So it's going to be that very lustery, very opaque effect that we're getting. The two chemistries that we're looking at is our standard chrome containing WR and our chrome free NXR treatment, and in 3 different levels. So you'll see the blue lines, A1, A2, A3 is our chrome containing, with the A1 being the least amount and the A3 being the most amount. And then the same trend for the chrome free NXR treatment. So this first graph shows the deterioration or the gloss retention. I should rephrase that appropriately, for the ultra accelerated response through the full 12 months. And the orange line that I have on here is the Amaqua standard, or yeah, the AMA standard, forgive me, 2605 standard of a 50% retention rate of 60-degree gloss retention. So what this data shows us is that there's definitely a difference between the effectiveness for gloss retention between the chrome-free treatment and the chrome-containing treatment, with the chrome-free being to a lesser response versus the chrome. And of course, then when we look at the amount of surface treatment that was used, we have the highest amount, pretty much retaining almost 100% of the gloss retention in that 12-month period for the ultra accelerated. If we look at the color retention for the same set of superfine micas, we have the delta E values. Again, I have added the AMA 2605 standard of a delta E of 5 in here. And so what we see here is we have a few items that just barely make it to that 12 month period, with the WR at the highest amount reaching that is still maintaining that 5 delta E requirement after a 12-month exposure period. Our Florida results, as I mentioned, we only have 2 years worth of data available at this time, but we can already see some trends at that 2-year mark. Again, we see the same type of response between the two chemistries, with the WR chrome containing being superior to the chrome free. And the two higher levels of surface treatment for the chrome containing are still maintaining that gloss retention at 100% at the 2-year mark. Again, we'll keep following this out through the 5-year period. And then lastly, the color values with respect to Florida, again at 2 years. Similar results where we see the chrome containing being superior to the chrome free, and each of those are starting to approach that delta E of 5 in there. So we'll take a look at where the 3-year mark puts us for each of these. Our second objective, we wanted to take a look at particle size and that impact on the weatherability with a given surface treatment. So all of these are all silver micas, and each of them have the same amount of surface treatment, and the chemistry is the same. So in this particular case, we chose the WR, the chrome containing, and each of them has the same amount of surface treatment on there. These are the ultra accelerated weathering data, and out to the full 12-month exposure period. The chart on the left will be the gloss retention, and again I added in the AMA 2605 mark of 50% retention, and we see that in this particular set of surface treatments, each of them do pass the retention requirement of 50%, but you can start to see where the particle size differences impact. In the larger ones retain more of the gloss versus the smaller sized ones. On the right-hand side is the delta E for that same set of micas. And again, we can start to see that they all pass that, or they all are greater than the 5 delta E in terms of the color retention. But we start to see where again, particle size might have an impact on that particular property. And the Florida results, again, these are 2 years in here, so we don't really have too much of a distinction at this point in time for the particle size here, because they all are have very good gloss retention and very good delta E. So we'll continue to follow those. Our third objective was to take a look at the metal oxide, the thickness as well as the type. This chart shows the thickness level. So in TiO2 mica effect pigments, they are the thinnest TiO2 will be the silvers, and then the next thickest will be the iridescent gold, all the way up to the blue. So in this particular case, we are taking a look at the thinnest, which is the silver, and the next one up is the gold in 2 different particle sizes. Again, these all of these comparisons are all done with the same surface treatment chemistry and the amount of that chemistry. So in this particular case, on the left again is the gloss retention for the ultra accelerated testing protocol. I've added the AMA 2605 standard of 50% here. And so in this particular case, again, we see the same types of responses where this particular surface treatment chemistry and the amount all pass that AMA standard, but we start to see where both the thickness levels in both particle sizes have an impact on that photodegradation of the TiO2. The silvers being having a lesser response than the golds. On the right-hand side is the delta E for that same set of micas. And again, we see the same type of responses here for the particle sizes as well as the thicknesses. Florida results, not too much to look at here. Again, it's only 2 years, so we'll continue to follow that to see if it makes a change and follows up the trends that we're seeing with the ultra accelerated as well. Lastly, in the second part of the third objective was to take a look at the metal oxide type. So we talked earlier in the webinar about the typical iron oxide or TiO2 as being the main metal oxides used for mica effect pigments, and so the response to the exposure part of it. So here again we have the same. These are all 10 to 60 micron particles. They all have the same chemistry, surface treatment chemistry, and the amount again. This is the ultra accelerated exposure. And what we've done is the bottom layer, obviously as the color implies, is the silver. Right above it is a bronze, and that is also the only iron oxide coated. It is also the thinnest of the iron oxides in terms of the color position. So in comparisons, these are similar in terms of their metal oxide thicknesses because they are both the thinnest in that layer. But you can see how the iron oxide responds versus the TiO2. The one right above it is a gold, and this is a combination of both TiO2 and iron oxide. However, the TiO2 is right above the mica, and the iron oxide covers the TiO2. So even though we do see an impact of the TiO2, the coverage of the iron oxide over the TiO2 protects that TiO2 layer, so it doesn't respond like a standard silver would respond. On the right-hand side is the delta E as well. And in this particular case, we start to see that both the iron oxide bronze and the combination gold do pass the delta E requirement of the ALMA 2605, whereas the silver and in that same particle size range does not. Florida results, similar story here. We don't have enough data here to really make a statement, and we'll follow this. So in summary, we would like to make a note that although the pearl pigments do provide unique aesthetics, we do have they may come with some undesirable effects that we have to make sure that we address if we're to use them in the application that they're needed in. There's no universal treatment, as you can see from the data that I presented today. So it depends on what is your application need and what the specific requirements are going to be. And what we do with surface treatments, we want to make sure that we are designing them based on the failure mode of that particular application. So we need to understand first what is the failure mode or the properties or application areas that we need to develop a mica pigment for. And once we understand that, then we can match and engineer that surface treatment to be able to fit into that application as best as possible. Ultimately, certainly customized solutions will get the end user everything that they need, but that is not necessarily an option in all cases, but that's always a possibility. So some of the conclusions that this information has led to for us at Sudarshan that we can take forward and offer all of our customers is that definitely smaller particle size micas, which give you that nice soft luster and high opacity, they do require a higher amount of surface treatment, but also we need to make sure that we choose the correct chemistry as well. As we saw, the selection of the surface chemistry is critical to the ultimate performance. We've continued to prove the fact that TiO2 can undergo photocatalytic degradation, and the thinner layers of the TiO2, which are the silvers, are the most susceptible. But silvers are the most popular of the micas, so we want to make sure that we match up the performance with the color development requirements that are out there as well. So the golds, or micas with the TiO2 as the first layer, we don't see that same impact of the UV rays for the degradation, because that second layer of iron oxide protects the in there. So that opens up a lot more color spaces that we have available to us to be able to minimize the amount of surface treatment, but yet still get the weathering performance that we're looking for, because we're using an iron oxide on the surface. And then lastly, the debate continues along with ultra accelerated versus Florida data. We certainly understand that, and we continue to add to the data pool with our data to make sure that we can use ultra accelerated data for color development, because that's ultimately going to meet your needs as far as getting products out the door a little faster versus waiting so many years in the for Florida data. But ultimately, our job is to help you match the surface treatment to the actual mica and color effect that you're looking for, so that you do get the performance requirements that your customers demand of your products. So I talked last time about our new website, so I encourage you to peruse the new website in there. I think you'll find that you'll get a lot of information there uh, that we hope that can help you in your selection process. The All of the product TDSs you can download from there, as well as our current digital brochures are also there as well for your download in there. So we love to hear back from you on your thoughts, and we encourage you to stop by and take a look. So as far as we're all here, the whole North American team is here for your needs. So feel free to reach out to any one of us for any kind of questions that you might have or samples you might need. We're here to help, and we would encourage you to do so. So next up, we're obviously because of the holiday season is coming at us, we are going to take the December off, but we're going to be back at it in January. Our webinar will be the last Tuesday of the month, which is the 31st. Still working on the lineup for 2023, so stay tuned for that, and you'll receive the invitation for that one about a week prior to the webinar, and we hope you can join us. So I'd like to thank you once again for supporting us in our webinar series as we've moved along through this year, and we look forward to bringing you some new content next year as well. And we're always looking for your feedback, and any comments and suggestions that you have we are definitely looking for those, and encourage you to do so. So at this point, like to open it up to any questions that you might have. In there, so we'll take a look at so a question came in about does the surface treatment visually affect color travel or flip-flop versus non-treated? So there's two answers to this. As far as the flip-flop effect, the answer to that is no. We still get the same amount of flip-flop color that you would expect. And the impact on color, it depends on what is the chemistry of the color. So in one case, for the chrome containing, what this ends up doing is it does tend to send the color a little bit to the yellow side, yellowish greenish side, just because of the nature of the surface treatment in there. The chrome free is colorless, so that does not affect the color. So what we end up doing is we can manipulate the color of the thickness of the metal oxide to overcome the color impact of a chrome containing surface treatment if need be. And in some cases, we might use it to our advantage to be able to offer a unique color space as well. Okay, any other questions that you might have? All right. I don't see any other questions. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I'll let you get back to your day, and I thoroughly appreciate your attendance and your support this year with our webinar series. So hope everybody has a great holiday season, and we'll look forward to seeing you next year. Take care, everybody.